There can be a time inside of your organization where deploying Kubernetes isn't suitable. I know, coming from me, sounds strange. It's all I talk about is Kubernetes and platform engineering, but there are particular reasons. And what I want to do is I want to take a moment in this video to go over 3 particular reasons and where PaaS or platform as a service may come into play to help you out a little bit more. Okay, so reason number 1, your organization or the teams, the engineering teams within the organization are not ready to deploy Kubernetes. Okay. Number 2, they're not ready to maintain Kubernetes as a whole. And number 3, they're simply not big enough, or the app that you're managing simply isn't big enough or ready to deploy Kubernetes. Okay. So I want to talk about number 3 first, okay? Because I think that it's a good segue into, this whole idea of when not to run Kubernetes and when to use something like PaaS. So in this particular video, I want to talk about a tool called Aptable. And Aptable is essentially platform as a service or a PaaS for startups. And it's pretty easy to use, pretty straightforward. I have a video or 2 inside of my YouTube channel, which you can see on deploying your first application, getting Docker deployed, all of that fun stuff, okay? But I want to start with number 3, which was maybe your app simply isn't ready, okay? So this is a story from one of my previous clients, and one of my previous clients reached out to me and they said, hey, we have this MVP for an application. We need to, kind of get it deployed successfully in AWS, but it's really for demo purposes. It's an MVP. Like, we just want to see if this thing is going to even work, if the industry even cares about it, right? So thinking about that, we were kind of like, well, deploying something like Kubernetes just to see if something works and getting the security right and getting the deployment right and getting the repeatability right, it's a big lift for an application that we don't know is simply going to work or not yet, okay? So with that being said, we did still want to use containers. Why? Because containers, especially at an application at that level, is just easier, right? It's easier to containerize an app and deploy it. Boom, good to go, okay? And with that, we actually went with ECS, which is a service in AWS that you can just use to deploy containers. And that has a little bit of a PaaS feeling in itself, to be honest, because you're literally just taking a container images and deploying it, and ECS is handling it for you. So that's a really good reason to use platform as a service with Aptable, because your application may simply not be ready to get fully deployed into an environment like Kubernetes. Number 2, your teams may not be fully up to speed with Kubernetes. Kubernetes is not an easy thing to learn and manage from end to end, okay? Especially in larger environments, okay? There's a lot that you need to learn at the infrastructure level, at the networking level, at the development level, and everything in between. Not only how to get a cluster up and running properly, but how to secure that cluster properly. And oh, by the way, how to secure the app. And oh, by the way, how to secure the users and get the networking right and get the application deployments right. And hey, are we going to use GitOps? What are we going to use for GitOps? There are all these different questions that you have to answer. Now, I personally, of course, love these questions, and I love answering these questions, and I love deploying these things because that's what I do. For everybody that watches my YouTube channel and follows my content, I love Kubernetes and I love platform engineering and I love all these different things. But the truth is this: your organization may not be ready. Maybe you will be later on, but right now you may not want that complexity. You may not ever want that complexity. Maybe, you find platform as a service and you use Aptable and you say, hey, this works for everything that we need. We're good to go here, all right? So that complexity and what you actually need and the engineers that actually need to get trained up on all this stuff, it's a big lift, all right? Third, the maintenance of it all, okay? So the maintenance and the complexity, like let's say you learn the complexity, right? You get it all, you go through some trainings, you do this, you do that, you deploy, you're good to go. Now you got to maintain it, okay? And that's not the easiest thing to do. And it's okay, it's not meant to be easy, it's not supposed to be straightforward. Regardless of what we hear about Kubernetes making things easier, surprise, there's still a lot of complexity around it, all right? Now, you may simply not have the team or the engineering bandwidth to literally maintain this whole system moving forward, which again, popping an application, some code into a platform as a service may make things a little bit easier for you. And this is something that I do want to say here. Platform as a service is not exactly platform engineering, but when we think about platform engineering, we are thinking about an underlying platform, whether it be VMs or Kubernetes or whatever, because guess what? Even with platform as a service, it's still running somewhere, right? So in the case of Aptable, it's running in AWS. But there's always an underlying platform. You just don't have to worry about it, right? That's literally what platform as a service says. There's an underlying platform. You just don't have to worry about it. You want to just deploy your code and that's it. And that's kind of where platform engineering is going as well, because platform engineering is, hey, there's this underlying platform, somebody's managing it, but you don't have to worry about it. You're going to have self-service capabilities and internal developer platforms and all those things to kind of just deploy what you need to deploy and get up and running what you need to get up and running, and that's it. So what's really cool, just as platform engineering is kind of growing and going into its own space a little bit and emerging, there is some overlap with platform as a service, which is really cool. So you may start with platform as a service and you may migrate at a later time, or you may not because you like the capabilities of platform as a service. You have an application, you got a smaller team, you're like, hey, boom, let me just deploy this thing. I don't have to worry about anything. I don't have to worry about the underlying infrastructure. I just have to worry about deploying the code, securing it, etc. So those are the three things that you can think about. Number one, maybe you're not ready to take on the complexity. Number two, maybe you're not ready to maintain the complexity. And number three, maybe your app just simply isn't ready, or your organization simply isn't ready for a huge undertaking. Thank you so much for watching. Really appreciate it. Hope this video was helpful, and we'll see you again next time.